It's right. It's to Rabban Christian Radio and Rabban Christian TV, the fountain of beautiful Christian broadcasting network. And this is your good friend, the agent of positive change. And I want to welcome all of you to this special May edition of the program, Issues to the Office of President Boakai. So as you join us, we want you to go ahead and share this with your friends and give Liberians the opportunity to be a part for the next few hours here on Rampant Christian Radio and Rampant Christian TV. We broadcast programs of news, views, interviews, documentary, as well as non-stop Christian entertainment. And we want to welcome you all to the May edition of Issues to the Office of the President. Over the past few weeks, some part of last month, I have been coming on the air and talking a little bit about the nation of Liberia. I will come and talk about issues of national concern. And so I've seen some things. I've listened to some discord and discussion all over the place concerning Liberia. So I thought it wise that with the information available to some of us, we ourselves must help to provide enlightenment for our people. Because information dissemination is vital and very important. And I've also noticed that whenever people take the airwaves to speak about issues concerning Liberia, what we have discovered is that most often it's about self-aggrandizement, their own game, not the masses. But they say they speak on behalf, or they are speaking on behalf of the masses, or they are advocating for the people. So then I said to myself, when good men sit back and say nothing, and few people continue to teleguide the minds of our people under the pretend that they speak for them, then one office I must create a program to give Liberians the opportunity or share some of the little wisdom and understanding that God gave me and the information that I'm privileged to is to help inform my people. Because you see, Thomas Jefferson once said, I know of no ultimate power of the society, but the people themselves. So when I come on and I talk about Liberia, and I'll see it, I read, sometimes I go back to watch, and I read the comment section. I'll go to the comment section and follow. And, sometimes I'm just looking and seeing some things, and it caught my, just catch my attention and say, I need to find a date and time to do something exclusively to bring our people to that place where they will see these things for themselves and start to Understand, because listen, when consumers become producers, and these producers will sometimes not speak truth to power, but sometimes they're speaking truth to power. At the end of the day, they are dining and whining with the power that be. And one thing I notice is that once you start to speak truth to power, the supporters, the friends, the family members, the people who find themselves in power, distance themselves from you, which of course is fine because it saves you from, becoming one of the people that he who pays the piper plays the tune. So I discovered something and I said, since it's difficult for people to have independent media institution that will provide enlightenment for the people, I will find a day and time when we can come on the air and speak to the office of the president, where we can give Liberians the opportunity to speak to the office of the president. It's not about numbers. I don't believe in quantity. Content matters, not quantity. So there are a few things I want to talk about tonight that caught my attention. One, let's look at the president's speech. In the State of the Nation address to Liberians just a few days ago by the President of the Republic of Liberia, President Joseph Boakai, there was something I was looking for in the speech, because the president now was then vice president for 12 years. I want you to share this broadcast with your friends and family members. So the president was vice president for 12 years. And by constitutional provision, the office of the vice president, through the Liberian National Lottery, the office has an oversized responsibility for people living with disability in our country. But in that speech, there was something that the president did I really wanted to see, because, listen, since I was a little boy in Liberia, and I stand to be corrected, I've not seen any program, vital program, catering to the well-being of people living with disability. Now, in an exclusive interview, the president once said in an interview that, peace be to our ashes, his late mother was also somebody living with disability. So 12 years ago, there was nothing from the office of the president, no major program catering to the well-being of people living with disability. I find it disturbing that the speech writer, I don't know how well they follow the president or look at some of the issues, and they forgot about people living with disability. One thing that was so interesting to a lot of people when the president talked about the issue of drug addiction in the country, and how he may mention that his vice president and himself will be the first to take drug tests. But Mr. President, what happened to the people living with disability. Now, I said to you guys, since I was a little boy, I grew up on Crown Hill Broad Street. I went to Augustine F. King. Augustine F. King was just opposite the Group of 77 office. And since I was a little boy, that place has been so deplorable. The Sonine Pass right there, that Sonine served as a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes that live from there bite people and gave them malaria. So imagine from the 80s to the 90s to 2000, up to the time that President Boakai served as a vice president of the Republic of Liberia, he and Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf never created any tangible program catering to the well-being of people living with disability. There was nothing, no program, including the legislators themselves. There was nothing to improve the livelihood of people living with disability in the country. Nothing. We all know that the government of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf got a lot more support from donors funding, but they never created anything to improve the livelihood of people living with disability in Liberia. But you know, I listened to some of the propagandists and supporters. They themselves do not prioritize the well-being of people living with disability. Now, let me tell you why the issue of drug addiction or the proliferation of ghettos were highlighted in the president's speech. You see, over the years, the past 6 years, the issue of drug addiction or the proliferation of ghettos became a political trump card. All the politicians were using this, including a sitting senator, Darius Dillon, also used the slogan about rehabilitation to tell you how biased and how selfish our leaders can be sometimes. Is that when they, and those of us who spend some time in the media, we understand the trick. We know the game. Whenever you find a leader start to prioritize certain things that become a public discussion, they're going to use that as a political trump card or to score political points. So year in, year out, all of our presidents have not created any program, developed any program, from the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to the Gender Ministry. There is nothing that they can show to substantiate their claim that Pastor Cummins, the producer of the program, issues to the office of the president is right. There's nothing. The Group of 77 office stayed there. As a matter of fact, most of the groups now, everybody gone their own way, different groups, different groups, all over the place. The people that in the street, in their wheelchair, holding their cane, holding their crutches, they sing to earn their daily meal. No one legislators, including, let's look at one of the popular county in the threshold bill, Montserrat. All of these gimmicks, liars who have become legislators, senators from the Montserrat and its environment have not created anything to improve the well-being of the people. So the things we focus on now, all because the proliferation of ghettos have increased. So because the proliferation of ghettos have increased and drug addiction is now taking the lives of the the young people. I understand that is good. Because I remember some time back, I got robbed while I was in Liberia, and a brother of mine got robbed, and we took on the Liberian National Police, the depot in the Gardnersay, Somalia Drive in. And I led a group of men that night, and I told the commander, I said, if they don't shut down the ghettos, we'll burn all the ghettos tonight. Because the ghettos were serving as a breeding ground for crime. You know, Aristotle said poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. And if the have-not continue to increase in number, that state soon collapse. So then what the police commander did was, the next day, about 3 a.m. in the morning, they came to collect me. They brought 2 pickups full with men armed to the teeth. Now, the commander, the mistake here is that he was playing with a Garan. Somebody who stayed in the country all throughout the war, never went to exile. I'm familiar with stories of people who they, quote unquote, they went to pick up from their home to go on operation and they got killed. So I told the commander and I said, with joke, I said, I am not Manan Zeke. Then he laughed. He said, Jiro, you scared? I said, but it's 3 a.m. in the morning. If you're going to raid a ghetto town like this, raid the ghetto tomorrow morning, I will send some reporters there. He said, no, but you are the one always on the radio with it. I said, raid the ghetto, then get me in the next day. Or early morning, by 7 before I go to work, I'll pass by the depot. Now, I'm not a baby. And I'm not a novice to Montserrado and its environment. No group of police officers will come to pick me up 3 a.m. in the morning that they're going to raid the ghettos in the township of Gardnersay and Bartnersay. Then I should follow them. Now, I'm not crazy. I'm not Francois Massaquoi or I'm not Manazeke. He said, Jiro. I said, no, I'm telling you seriously, and I'm not coming outside. Raid the ghettos. So, yes, the issue of the ghettos, we can say it is not it never started from the Joshua era. But the thing people don't know is this. Let me give you a short history. The government of Abel Sawyer was from from Ducal Palace Hotel to Paul River. Then from Paul River to 15 Gate. From 15 Gate to Cutting Tree. That was Abel Sawyer terrain. And at that time, some people argue that after the war, the proliferation of drugs was in the country. The thing you don't know that you say all the time is that those of us who stay in the country all throughout the war, the proliferation of drugs was only among the fighters. The proliferation of ghettos was not all over the place. That is a myth. So you can say from Barclay Training Center to Snapper Hill, we had drugs. That's a lie. Myth. From Barclay Training Center to ELW Junction, proliferation of the ghetto, that's a myth. That's not true. To 72nd, to Gardnersay, to Ray Hill, to Paul River, that's a myth. No, we never had it like that. As a matter of fact, people could travel in the street late night. Late night. Even though we had a holy, and now some of you are not familiar with the holy, where if you go into town, you know those trucks that used to carry the container, where people used to stand or sit on all that stuff, and sometimes it's running and it's moving a little bit, people trying to make their way to go to town to hustle. So the proliferation of ghettos was not many like that. The proliferation of drugs was among the fighters. Then we come to autopause, because most of the hula balu came around autopause. Still, we never had a proliferation of ghettos like that. All these things starting, the actual embryo stages of drugs to be seen was after World War I, World War II, and World War III. That was when. And the places that you could find this issue of drugs increasing gradually was from white flower, the Congo tan, Chastida N, to come as far as the executive mansion, because beyond the executive mansion was the famous ATU. Then, right around foreign ministry, you had some generals living all around there. Then you have, people who claim to be government forces. Then let's come to the Barclay Training Center and to the IPRASIS, and it started merging gradually. But we were not taking into consideration how do we attack these things though. Then 6 years ago, it became so rampant. 6 years ago, they became so rampant. I'm giving you facts, and I'm giving you diagram of places. You got to be familiar with Montserrat or Morovia and its environment to picture out some of those diagrams that I'm giving you. So prior to my departure from the country, the Shoes Factory, Gardner's became a breeding ground for crimes. Then you have the Babla. Then you have the Rahil. Then you have the Gobachaw, the Pipeline Road. Those were the places now. First, they started operating around Babla. How many of you know Babla? Babla is behind the old defense ministry. So when they drove the guys from Babla, they then make their way to the Palm Grove Cemetery. How many of you really familiar with those kind of history? Some of you supported President Boakai. Some of you supported President Weir. But when you come to the historicity of some of these things, don't act like you know it and you are the only person that is informed, that nobody can speak to the office of the president. And sometimes when I preach and say some of these things, then some of the pastors say, oh, that man is a political preacher. Look, I've been in the media for years, 14 years. Prior to that 14 years, I was a rap musician and a DJ. So I know the street, I know the corner. But this issue of drugs have taken, yes, it's not an epidemic, it's a serious security risk. Listen, when the issue of drugs started emerging, coming to our country, there were NSA officers, CID, okay? MBI officers, people in the seaport, because our borders were porous. When Chris Massacre became immigration boss, he called on media executive in an exclusive meeting with him and media executive. He asked us to use our radio and television stations and newspapers to create awareness so that at the time Colonel Beatrice C., who was then the police boss, was receiving more donor funding from the U.S. and the Chinese. So how do Chris and his people, the Bureau of Immigration and Naturalization, get more is by creating a cordial relationship with the media, newspapers owner, radio stations owners, to create an awareness so that the Bureau, and some of you are not familiar with these things. Some of you don't even know these things. You only see it when some of your senators or representatives or presidential candidates talk about these things, but they do not talk about these things in depth. So that's why they now tend to be selective. They go to few media institutions where people who are coming to the game today, they were not media practitioners. And so they were not out there. So they are not too familiar with the historicity. Now I'm just talking about drugs. I've not gone down to the group of 77 because if I go there, it's going to take me about 2-3 hours to sit here. And I will say some things with facts. There's no government official now that can dispute it or argue it. So you see, the masses have been suffering as a result of that. Some people have been enjoying. So some of the people who stand in the quest today for change in our country, let me tell you something. They've been so deceptive and deceitful because when we were on the radio, some of these people were benefiting from the system and they never spoke. Oh, yes. You don't know that. Where they were benefiting from the system, so they were not speaking about these things. Look, Liberia palaver and Liberia story. You can keep talking. In my era, I'm familiar with those things. So you can keep talking about these things. There were police officers who were benefiting from it, the gain, the spoil. This is the reason why when after the World War I, World War II, and World War III, there were people making money. And then the Nigerians, our brothers from Nigeria, how many of you are familiar with Sweetie Release? They had Sweetie Release around the Vitan area. So most of the Nigerians that were bringing spare parts, used car parts to sell, they were the major importers of drugs. I told you I spent years in the media. They were the major importers of drugs in our country. Now our borders were porous. Chris Massacre was finding it difficult to get Madam Salif attention to sponsor or to equip the Bureau of Immigration Naturalization. Chris cannot deny what I'm saying. He will tell you. Even Madam Salif cannot deny. The police was getting. And then I wonder where all the support that the police, they were wearing uniform. Oh my God. So issues to the office of President Boakai. Because if some of us do not speak, and others because they're going to get scholarship and they're going, and that's you know, this has been the old age thing. When people are benefiting from presidents, nobody must say anything to the president. When people are benefiting from a leader, nobody should speak to call the president attention. So today, this afternoon, on the May edition of the program, issues to the office of the president, I want to draw the president attention to the group of 77. And if somebody say, well, Pastor Cummings, you just talking these things, what has been your own contribution? What have you done? This is my own contribution. This is it. You know, we're here, we're talking, we're bringing our people attention to these things. It's not for fame. Others will come and talk about these things, and they are direct beneficiary of the spoil. Amen. They are direct beneficiary of the spoil, so they enjoy. They will be the one to enjoy. So tonight, I'm only here to draw the president attention to the group of 77. I don't know why this thing is freezing. It's not moving. Is something happening here? I don't know. Uh-oh. It's something, you know, I package some stuff I want to share with you guys, but something is going on here. I just can't understand. There are a couple of videos I want to share. Oh my God. That I want to share with you. And it's not moving. It's not moving. But I guess you folks can hear me. Okay? It's not moving at all.
Start by making sure
probably we'll do
those people that we bring to cabinet are people of integrity And secondly, want to make sure that even beginning with myself, we'll declare.
Okay. I'll find a way. Don't worry. I'll find a way to play it. But I'll say this.
Those of you who are on ground, you are the right messenger, you are the best messenger, and I pray God for you, because when you have a good messenger, it means that the message is resonates. Oh, you from the States as well. Bless God. You see, this is what we call the white king. Without this, we cannot go from here even down there. Okay? And it is now on sale in Liberia here. We need it. Okay? And we also need braille machine, the machine we use to write as blind people. We don't use copybook. We don't use pen and paper. We have special machines, special equipment. So when you go, you ask Amazon in the US, say I want blind material. When you search it, you find all the materials for the blind. So we'll be very much glad this 2024 to receive donation of materials. Thank you. God bless you, and I wish you a safe travel. And I pray that God will carry you back safely, and even those who will be living on ground, that God's hands of protection will be upon them.
So both of them decided to contribute towards their birthday, to give it to the needy, which is you guys at this blind. So on behalf of the Rama Christian Radio TV, based in the United States, and me speaking the secretary, I would like to give to you guys 10 bags of rice, 1 5-gallon agro oil, 1 5-gallon red oil, and Mother Sissy contributed $15. And we, as members of the Rama Christian Online, we contributed $150. So total is $200. So you guys can buy soap and any other thing that you guys need.
All right. So let us do you have a
Yeah.
So I want to do a birthday song before I speak. So at the count of 3, I want us to sing a birthday song, Lorena.
Okay. All right. So if you're saying, oh, but then what is it that our pastor comes? You're talking about these people, but have you in any way, your ministry, your partners, in any way? Yes, you see the video. And this is not the first year, this is not the second year, this is not even the third year, which is we've been doing it all the time. So if you have a program, and which of course we want you to do, Mr. President, this is something we want the office of the president to do. Create a program to prioritize the well-being of people living with disability in Liberia. Create a program, or set up a special commission or committee that will set up, come up with a budgetary allotment for them so that they can't be in the streets, begging all the time. I listened to, for 6 years, I sat down quietly. I monitor everybody. People were not paying attention to these things. The outgoing administration of President George Martin Weah, nothing for these people. So we expect the office of President Joseph Yemon Boakai and that of the office of Vice President Jeremiah Banko to do something. This is the issue that we're bringing to your office, Mr. President. To do something. To do something for people living with disability. I know you guys are focusing on the audit, the corruption, and all these things. That other shenanigan. I just don't want to jump inside because when we go back to some stuff, I'll just bring one of my note power here and we'll sit down for hours to talk. This must change. Mr. President, I listened to your speech. Nothing. What about people living with disability? So your office and the office of the Vice President, there's a need to do something. There is a serious need to do something for people living with disability. I agree. You constitute a committee concerning the issue of drugs. Now, you see, because it's killing and there's a security risk, so it's now gaining center attention. But what about the people living with disability? When we do things, Mr. President, we must be at an equilibrium. The people living with disability are Liberians too. Yesterday they were on the line voting. We understand that the issue of the proliferation of ghettos and young people with drugs is serious. It is serious. And there's a need to attack these issues, to create a program. But Mr. President, I know you are also aware, and you have seen the people living with disability running all over the place. 12 years ago, you were president. By constitutional provision, the office of the Vice President has oversight responsibility for the group of 77. Well, nothing was done then. And we hope and pray, now that you are president, we hope and pray because the car is not in the garage. It's not parked. The race car is on the track. And every time I come out here, Mr. President, we'll bring this issue up to you. We'll bring it to your office. The people living with disability. I will be reading the papers. I will be listening to the news. I'm going to be checking. And I'm going to be on the back of the Minister of Information, Culture, and Tourism. We're also going to be on the back of the Minister of Health and Social Welfare, the Minister of Gender. Or we're going to be on their back. We want to see something. We want to see something. We want to see something. Mr. President, and Mr. Vice President Jeremiah Kwankun, now the board is in the court of your office. Somebody will say, Pastor Cummins, Brother Jiro, man, it's too soon. No, it's never too soon. There is an African proverb that say, when the iron is hot, burn it. When the iron is hot, burn it. Don't wait for the iron to get cold. When it's hot, burn it. More than 30 some or 40 some more years, Mr. President, people living with disability, no major program. Since I was a little boy, I've not seen anything tangible. No major program. And shame on the legislators. These people are their constituents. They come from their constituency. They sit up there Tuesday and Thursday and they just make noise. At the end of the day, they go home with huge salary. But their constituents who are living with disability challenge nothing. 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 And that's why sometimes I see my people, they spend endless time, they're talking about love, sex, money, gossip, this. How will you be innovative? How will you learn? If I was talking about some of those things right now, I was talking about corruption, the place will be packed. So if we do not talk about this, how to create a program to call on the president of the Republic of Liberia that his office and the office of the vice president must do something for people living with disability. Must create a program for them so that they can't be in the street begging. So they can't be in the streets begging. Because when we have a national program that caters, to the well-being of them and improve their lives, it's going to be better. So, Mr. President, I'm bringing this to your office. Form a committee too. All the people hanging around in your office, let them come up with something. Create a program. Let them create a program. That will help, to improve the well-being of the folks living with disability. Create a program. But because we have a system that corruption is always the order of the day, people are not far-sighted. They do not pay attention to these things or the well-being of people living with disability. But tomorrow, when it's time for election, we run to these same people. We get their votes. We leave them. We leave them. We leave them. But every election season, we need their vote. So we run to them. Mr. President, we hope and pray that your office, that your lieutenants will develop a program to improve the lives or the living condition of folks living with disability in Liberia. You see, Liberians today, all the folks want us to talk about is politics. They divert your attention from these things so that you will not know. That's why I'm advocating that we have more GSM companies in the country so that the people can have access to information. We have more GSM companies in the country so that our people, they can have the time to go online and they can read and do some research. Because some of the stories I'm sharing here, some of you are not familiar with it. Yesterday, they were only tell you that, well, it started from this. It started from this group, and that group. We ship blame here and there. We do not pay attention to these things. This group is blaming the other group. The other group is blaming the other group. We do not pay attention. But do you know if we have more GSM companies in the country where the people have access to internet, it's accessible, available, the availability of the internet, they can afford, they will not be in darkness. The information will be available to them. They'll go on their phone and make some research and they'll come across these things. Many years ago in North Dakota, there's a law called the Grecian Law. The Grecian Law was introduced by 6 family members. Six of these family members decided that they were tired with the game. That is to say, there was no program catering to the well-being of folks living with disability. And so one person, they were treating people that have a mental issue or people that are sitting in a wheelchair, visually impaired, all of them were treated in one category, the same thing. And these 6 families decided that no, this can't continue to happen. So they sued the state of North Dakota and they won the case. Today in North Dakota, every single individual, anybody living with disability has a case manager. And that person, case manager, makes sure that everything concerning that individual is documented. Their well-being, everything. So just imagine 6 families decided to take the state of North Dakota to tax, and they won the case. They won the case. So they introduced the Grecian Law. It was because of that Grecian Law. Today, folks living with disability in North Dakota, each individual has a case manager. Today, in Liberia, folks living with disability don't have case manager because there's no program. Nothing. The Gamis only come and get their votes and they leave. The Gamis will come and just get their votes. Once they get elected, they leave the masses and they go. So, Mr. President, President Boakai, this is the issue that we're bringing to your office. And we hope and pray that the folks in your office, your press secretary, the Minister of State Designate, and others will see reason to start. There will be a holistic approach, an approach that will be at an equilibrium, not to go to a select media institution. That would be bias. Or because Pastor Cummins got this program called Issues to the Office of the President, and he's discussing issues of national concern, but we will not go there. We want to go to a place where we feel comfortable. That would be a bad move. That would be a bad move. It's going to be a bad move to do so. That would be a bad move. But I want to say thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on the program, Issues to the Office of the President. We'll find, it's just a media edition, and I'm going to find Saturday morning all the time to come here to do this program, Issues to the Office of the President. So today I wanted to pick up one issue and bring it to the office of the President. God's willing, I'll be back here on Saturday again with another wonderful presentation. Sorry I couldn't roll all the different videos. I had queue, I think my sister, something, I don't know what's going on, but On Saturday, join me. I will line up videos to show you something. And as you listen, so that you learn. Until we talk to you, this is your good friend, the agent of positive change, Pastor Jiro.